Heather probably has enough information.
Mhm. Yeah, okay, that's really important to note. I do have some HL7 contacts I can reach out to, so I'll do that. And I'm going to put my personal email in the chat too. Lucy and Samantha, I know your emails, so I'll reach out to you. But if anyone else is having confluence issues, please feel free to shoot me an email.
And in general, if anyone's ever having access issues to anything, this is a health equity, social determinants of health initiative. So if you find a barrier, it is our mission to address it. So we can just send the master to you as an Excel spreadsheet. You know, we're capable of doing these things. We're committed to making sure there are no barriers to achieving the mission and engagement and collaboration. I love that all of this is happening right after we address digital access and digital literacy. It makes me, because even the best of us have access barriers when tech is awkward. So it just is like a little moment of like, how timely. Okay, so I think again, let us know if you have any problem. And again, the great thing about this is the master has not changed much in a long time. It's been a very steady state. The only thing, and there's actually one in the moment addendum we're going to make today on the utility and security sets. So there's a slight discrepancy, and this is based on our, engagement with the brilliant Samantha Morton, who's been very helpful on everything legal. So thank you so much for your help there, Sam. All right, so we're gonna kick into the run of show today. Thank you so much for everyone for coming. I always say this, and it always lasts a long time, but it might not be a very long call because there is it's a voting agenda, right? We've reviewed everything. We've turned it over, looked at every different side, and it was also an abnormal build, right? It wasn't new build. It was just collation of existing materials to facilitate implementation. So here we go. Next slide. This, again, thanks for joining. Put yourself on mute. The call is recorded. We try to facilitate engagement, and you're all welcome. All calendar issues and vote and like access issues we're hoping get fixed when we reconvene after a brief holiday break, and see you in early February. We'll talk more about that in a little bit. Next slide. And then this is the common antitrust practices slide. Every participant has the responsibility to comply fully with federal and state antitrust laws. Next slide. These are our funders. We're so grateful for our funders. We've had a really stable year, lots of really excellent work happening. We're very excited about 2024 and the ability to reconvene when we expect to reconvene and continue our work, and wouldn't be possible without these sponsors and our incoming sponsors. So when we reconvene, you'll see there's some new sponsors for 2024, and we're grateful for them. Next slide. There is brief announcements talking about the project schedule just because we're looking into 2024, highlighting the utility and security value set vote and the process therein. Most of you have been on previous votes. Again, there's going to be one little addendum because of an error I made, or that was just, it gets slipped through a word change, and then closing out and looking forward. Next slide. Next slide. Announcements are kind of exciting. We haven't seen you in a little bit. So the Connectathon in January is a virtual Connectathon. You can always come to the Wednesday tech meetings to learn more. There's going to be some information on the next slide regarding some really interesting webinars we're hosting. But right now, just know that there's a summary report coming out about the social care co-design shortly. It's now with the co-design participants for review, and there's going to be a webinar to talk about the findings in a couple weeks. Excitingly, and unbeknownst to us, you all, our Gravity Collective, was named in the White House US playbook to address social determinants of health. So that came out a little bit ago. We had a very busy run, trying to respond to press releases and requests there. So it's really quite an honor to be recognized as part of the the strategies to address social determinants of health within the national ecosystem. We are a focus on, there's a pillar 1, which is about enhancing social determinants of health data and data standards. 1.3. Hi, Lucy. Yeah.
What does White House mean? Does this mean ONC or
No, it means
DHS or
the Biden administration.
the president himself?
It came out of the White House. Yes.
That's weird. Okay, well, congratulations. Okay.
Well, it's not necessarily weird, as the White House runs the health equity objectives for the whole administration, right? So they put out the SDOH playbook, and then within it are all of the programs of HHS that are aligned with it, right? So
I see.
there's 3 different, there's a really great blog. I can get the blog and put it in the chat once I'm not talking. There's a blog that talks about the 3 primary documents that were released. One is the SDOH playbook. One is a brief on all of the different departments of HHS and how they're working to address social determinants of health across the ecosystem. And then one is an update on Medicaid CHIP expansion of reimbursement for social needs. So all 3 of them are, all of them are built off of the US playbook to address social determinants of health. Lots of them, it all references stuff that's been, like, some of the stuff that's been in the ecosystem. Like, for instance, the playbook references the CMS health equity framework, right? And there's very similar principles and priorities across them. Like, the first priority of the CMS health equity framework is what you can see in the enhancing data pillar 1. But that 1.3 that specifically mentions gravity was really lovely to see. Like, it was great to get called out as a critical initiative and lever for national SDOH data alignment and our role in curating data within US CDI.
Thank you for that explanation. I thought the president is a little busy these days, so that's helpful. Thank you.
All right. Anyway, thanks for all of you, because gravity is all of you. Right. So it wouldn't be, we are a collective. So that's your work highlighted in a really important way. Next slide. And then these are the webinars I was talking about. So in a partnership, so Civitas has been a really wonderful sister in pilot implementation over the course of 2023. To highlight our work in collaborating on pilots and implementation and education and the hosting of the Social Care Voice Co-Design Initiative. Again, all of this supported by Robert Wood Johnson Foundation. We have 2 webinars coming up. One is kind of a pilot member-led webinar on the pilot implementation, on the pilot work stream. So members of our pilots will be there. I will be spearheading a panel, just facilitating kind of reflections on the year and the pilot program, and looking forward into 2024. And then session 2 is on the Social Care Voice Co-Design project. So a lot of that has happened in the intimacy of that group, just to make sure that they had a space to collate thoughts and feelings and findings. It's really exciting to bring that to the public. So on December 12th from 3 to 4, we're going to be hosting a similar panel where Health Begins, who facilitated the co-design initiative, will be facilitating a panel of Social Care Voice co-design members, and we'll be talking about the findings of the report. I do want to note that many of the findings on the report have already made their way onto Gravity planning and roadmaps because they were so salient. And we look forward to having you all come join us. You can register at the hyperlink there. I'm making sure I'm not missing anything in the chat. I'm just seeing all of Sarah's brilliant links. Okay, next slide. All right, project schedule and overview. Next slide. There are some updates you can see a little bit of updates on the roadmap. I want to note our brilliant terminology friends, my Himali, Sarah Bahal, and then of course Monique is a member of the terminology team too. Put little dots when we update VSAC value sets because it's so critical for implementers. So we added a new bullet today or this week. So those will be, there is a cadence and a predictability for when those value sets are updated in VSAC, and given that they are so robust and now leveraged for so many different initiatives, USCDI and quality measures, et cetera, we have a long-standing predictable schedule for release that's on the Confluence, and we hold by that, but you can now see it on our roadmap so that you can orient yourself there as well. And then everything else, you know, we're heading into our holiday, it's a holiday publicly, but is furious work behind the scenes. So after we have work to do to submit all of our new terms for digital access and digital literacy, we are of course submitting and the ICD-10-CM terms. There is work to do in value set maintenance. So even though we go private, like not public for December and January, it's very, very busy over here. And that's exciting. And then we're looking forward to, even though you can't see it, the Connect-a-thon happening in January. Next slide. Again, you can see those dots continuing here. The Terminology 2024 roadmap for now looks like this. Again, continuing our work with the Coding for Food initiative, developing those HCPC codes, exploring transportation insecurity elements, and leaning into the utility insecurity domain. The Coding for Food and transportation insecurity elements are light enough. We're looking into considering adding an additional domain. So we will have a normal, exciting, fun 2024. And all the domains right now are just being prioritized, and you'll see the same thing happen in the fall. When we reconvene in August for our fall build, there'll be 2 to 3 domains. I do want to note that because of the work from the co-design and because of where gravity really is, some of our new work is not just new domain work, it's developing deeper and alternate terminologies. So what you can see, oh, I can help you there, Lucy. So what you can see on the roadmap in the future might be 2 domains in the normal way, plus working on exploring terminologies for programs in a service taxonomy, plus exploring terminologies to support conveying eligibility and enrollment. Again, not establishing eligibility and enrollment, just conveying it, right? Or discussing how to create terminology for outcomes, right? So there's a lot of interesting new use cases and new needs that the ecosystem has asked Gravity to lean into to, again, deepen our capacity to represent the complexity and subtlety and expertise of social care. So in the future, you might see a couple domains and then also something that looks like a domain, but it's not the normal screening, diagnoses, goal, and intervention build. More to come on that. But HCPC codes are a good example of that, where it's like a new purpose reimbursement, and it's not quite the same depth of labor as normal domains. Does that make sense? Okay, it sounds like it makes sense. Lucy, your question regarding interpersonal violence. Great, thanks, Tammy. So those 2, you can actually see this actually in our slides later. So we've addressed already elder abuse and intimate partner violence within the interpersonal safety domain. Our work here, leaning into IQR readiness, highlighted for us that we still have yet to do child abuse or non-elder vulnerable adult abuse, which are both specific subtypes. They are in that sea of domains to be developed, and we look forward to developing them, putting them on the roadmap when it's time. But they're definitely going to be prioritized over the course of the next year, like a year or year and a half, or 2 years. I mean, they're just in the hopper. Okay. What was the other? Did I miss another? Okay, great. Next slide. All right. Any questions? Now we're going to go into the vote. Okay, next slide. Again, the purpose of this time was to leverage what we had, not building new things, to ensure we offered resources to assist implementers for IQR. The exciting thing about what we're doing now is what we're doing is thought to be helpful enough. The implementers are asking us to solve pressing problems, right? This is very different than 4 years ago, where we were, building terminology into the abyss. So now our implementer friends and our members in our community are saying, please assist us by making utility and security value sets. Please assist us by explaining how gravity data standards can support interpersonal safety assessment. So we said we could, because we had this short little period of time to leverage. Next slide. Again, no new build. And I just want to note that there have been some of the comments in end-to-end review were regarding missing things, missing concepts in screening, or missing concepts in interventions, and missing elements in diagnoses. We have held all of those and we'll resurface them when we address utility and security with our subject matter experts starting in February, right? So briefly on hold, no new build at this time, but all of that thought and intelligence will come back around when we start in February. Next slide. Here we are at the vote. Woohoo! And then you all can have a holiday while we work on writing and publishing and readying and meeting and revising. And so we can hit the ground running when we see you again in February. Next slide.
So Sarah, if there's no build here, and this is going to be actually the groundwork for work in 2024, why do we have to vote on it? What is the value added by a vote?
Oh, because things have been put in and things have been put out. There's choices that have been made. And so it's still important to say, we agree that this is fit for the purpose of utility and security value sets. It's still, we're producing a product, right? And even if maybe there might come a time when all the terminology we need for a domain is already made. And we're just, I don't know if that time will come based on what gravity does, but it's still important for us to say, this is fit, right? We agree. This is in, this is out, right? And so because it's not part of our consensus finding open standard development process unless we have a vote.
Okay.
And we've had conversations, we've made choices. And so we want to represent all those in our findings here. Was that a good answer? Good enough?
Yeah, that's fine. Thank you.
Okay, next slide. All right, next slide. I already covered this. And okay, utility and security value sets. I hear that people have not been able to access some elements, and I'm really sorry for that again. Please write us in the future if that happens again. There's one in the moment addendum we're going to make, and it's with an intervention term that got translated incorrectly, and then we confirmed the original purpose with one of our subject matter experts, Samantha, and so we're putting it back to what we were before, what it was supposed to be before, and we'll show you that very shortly. So when it comes to vote, these are the things to note. If we go next slide, we're in the clip, we're going to go all the way to the content. Next slide. Oh, okay, Samantha's in. Happiness. Samantha's in the conference. Fantastic. All right. So utility and security diagnoses. We have these at this time. No changes here. Next slide. Goal statements. We have these this time. Again, no changes. Next slide. Here's where you're going to see some changes. Next slide. No changes to this slide. Next slide. No changes here. Here's one change, and this is like, it just literally got transcribed incorrectly and then carried from one master that you all saw into another. And it's so small that it might not have been noticed, but we noticed it. And then we raised it to Samantha to cross-check, just because she's such a legal expert, a legal advisor to us. She doesn't advise us legally. She advises us on legal concepts because that is her area of practice. So you're like, no, not offering legal advice, but offering advice on concepts related to legal topics. Okay. So what we noted is that this was originally non-attorney legal advocate. And then we corrected it to non-lawyer legal advocate with a reference and intended to, but in the process, it got changed to non-lawyer legal assistant. And an assistant is an assistant to a lawyer, but that's not the same thing, right? So to honor the uniqueness of this role that does not, by design or necessity, have to work as an assistant, right? It can operate independently, right? And Samantha's nodding, and she just verified this to us in an email. We are returning it to the original terminology, right? So this is an in-the-moment adaptation, which is so subtle that maybe, I hope there's not too many feelings about this, but we didn't want to misconvey that this person only functioned in an assistant role when that wasn't the intent of the term, right? So what we're suggesting for the vote is, if this is a deal breaker, you can vote no with comment, right? But if you have thoughts on this, just say yes with comment and send it. If you're okay with it, just vote yes, right? Because we have those options for voting. Please feel free to send us concerns on this return to the original purpose via the normative voting process. However, because it was an error, it was a mistranslation, because we felt like it lost the autonomy of the role, we did not want to send it to vote in the original form. Does that make sense? I don't see any. I see Samantha nodding. I know how I have these people in my own FQHC, these experts in my own FQHC, they do not operate as assistants. And so I'm glad that I got thumbs up. Okay, great. Great. Woohoo! Okay, fantastic. And they are advocates. I mean, it's like the community health worker of the legal world. I mean, just problem solvers, brilliant people. I just so appreciate them. Okay, great. Moving on. Okay. No changes to assessment instruments for utility and security here. We had an addition last time. The delta between the last one and this one is none. Next slide. This means we are ready to go into our vote. We're going to describe the voting process, and then Sarah Bahal has ever so brilliantly made a Google form, as she usually does. Next slide. All right, so you heard me mention these elements. I'm going to review them before. We say them every time. Feel free to ask questions, right? So we worked together over the course of the last months to come to agreement, and we had our end-to-end review. All comments in end-to-end review, the primary ones were about missing things or changes to definitions or refinements to terms. So end-to-end review, definition changes and refinements to terms were resolved a bit ago and presented to you in the master file. Again, anything that was missing, the resolution of those was to hold it for 2024 with utility and security. So that grounding, this is the vote. So yes means a yes vote does not necessarily mean the deliverable is ideal, but it's better to move forward than block. Yes with comment, and that's like no email necessary, easy button. Yes with comment and formal objection both require an email to give clarity to the Gravity team so that we can figure out how to resolve them. So if you have a yes with comment, you have to submit an email to Gravity by December 7th, and by end of day Eastern Standard Time, right, Sarah B? I think it's like, I think we usually say 5 p.m. EST.
So for this round, we'll actually be accepting votes until 5 p.m. PST.
Oh, there we go. That's
Eastern
right.
Time.
Yeah. Yes, perfect. But this is the comment, not the vote. deadline. We'll just say the vote deadline is the email. I mean, sorry, this is the email comment deadline is the same, 5 p.m. PST, right? So what do we mean by 12/7? Send your email comments, right? Okay, so to adjust, because no skin off our back, we want to make sure we are kind to our Pacific Coast friends. When we say a day, we mean 5 p.m. Pacific time. So if you write an email, if you say yes with comment, you just send that email, and any comment, importantly, needs to show a pathway to resolution. And we will address return comments to you when we return in February. A formal objection that also requires an email. So the vote must include comments indicating a path. Sorry, I worked this in with yes with comment. This vote must include comments indicating a path to address the objection, because you can't just say no, because we've come to consensus together. So it must include comments indicating a path to address the objection in a way that meets the known concerns of other participants of the project, right? So if it deviates from the internal review process, internal consensus we've had by conversation, you need to show in your email how you've considered the things we've come together and how you offer a solution. If you do not offer that in your email, it flips to being an abstention. I know this sounds incredibly formulaic, but it's standard process and it's good to have. Again, you need to email your comments to Gravity by December 7th, end of day PST. An abstention is just an abstention. So these are the 4 options. Again, yes with comment and formal objection require an email. Next slide. All right, so the Google poll is to be completed by 5 p.m. PST tomorrow. You vote by tomorrow. And then you have until the 7th to send your email with your comment, if you're voting yes with comment or formal objection. So in the chat, yes, rules. Voting does require rules. So if you have a hard time accessing the Google Doc form for voting, let us know. We are here. We can send it to you. We did some abstention voting. Sometimes you have to click links twice to get them out of the chat. So I'm going to pause while I ensure that everyone who wants to captures the Google document to put your vote in. And please do, thank you so much. Anyone still gathering the Google document from the chat? Great. Okay. Okay. Perfect. So we will send you, yes, I was just on a call with someone from the state of North Carolina that had a block there too. So if you require anything other than a Google Doc, just let us know. Perfect. Great. So yeah, if you have any issues, again, it's our job to address access to barriers. This is our mission for the project. If you have any concerns accessing the Google Doc, we can easily create like a PDF version of it. It's all good. Or just an email, and we can figure it out. But Sarah Bahal's the brilliant one who can help us there. All right. Okay, so it seems like we're good to go on. Remember, don't forget that you need to get your vote in by tomorrow at 8 p.m. EST and your comments in by the 7th. All right, so next slide. We are going to end a little early today, it looks like, unless we're just going to chat for a while. There is no update here, but it's just reminding you, we're going to publish this on the We're going to publish this on the Confluence for now, just showing how the process, and just make sure our members have it as an implementer resource. And then again, there's a little bit more to discuss. So next slide. The mission was to create a pathway to addressing interpersonal safety that align with Gravity standards. This is driven by a couple different pressures and drivers in the ecosystem, the inpatient quality reporting measure, which again comes into reporting in January. And then there's also other projects and programs in the ecosystem. I want to note though, and we talked about this early, but haven't talked about it since, the revision of the IQR measure that CMS is undertaking and has already gone through public comment does not have interpersonal safety in it, right? So of note, CMS looking forward is separating interpersonal safety from the socioeconomic domains of transportation insecurity, housing insecurity, food insecurity, and utility insecurity. So there is this rally right now to meet current IQR requirements, with the understanding that very shortly, interpersonal safety elements are going to be put into their own special quality measure and own special approach, right? So it's not that they're not being addressed. It's just, hi, Corey. It's that they are going to be put into a unique measure. Corey Smith.
Thanks, Sarah. Yeah, so what do you think the sort of the practical implications of that statement are for those who, you know, are subject to the current version of IQR, and where interpersonal safety is there? What might Gravity say about that?
All we can say is what CMS is saying about it, which is that when implementers, what the comments on the revision of the measure raised just that problem. Like, if you're going to be taking a domain out, why are we held accountable to it in January, right? And CMS was like, because we are not changing our previous approach. So the good thing is the data strategies and learnings that are required to align with IQR will not go to waste. They're just going to be taken out of that particular measure and built into a new one, right? So it's not as if interpersonal safety is going to go away completely. It's just going to move out of a social drivers of health measure and be put into its own measure, right? So was what I said helpful?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, yeah, so it's not going away, it's just moving. And again, this aligns with, if you look at the evidence for United States Preventive Service Task Force, CMS is trying to bind a bit closer to the evidence of interpersonal safety screening with that measure. Because again, CMS did not author the existing IQR measure. It received it. It is authoring the revision, right? So all of CMS's intentions are laid to bear in the revision of the measure, that it received the one that's in the ecosystem now, and validated it and elevated it to be through the process to be part of IQR, but it didn't design it from the ground level, and it's trying to do a different, more evidence aligned job this time. That was maybe more words than necessary. Okay, next slide. You tell I'm a little tired. Next slide. All right. So the great thing is Gravity does have a lot to say regarding how to do any interpersonal safety domains well, because of the brilliance of our subject matter experts that we gathered together in 2022. 2022, I think. 2021. So we're going to go into that in the next slides, but really we have pathways we can recommend to get you to elder abuse and intimate partner violence. And as mentioned on the roadmap are those other domains that we know we have to address in time. Next slide. So the Q's model is the heart of it. I don't think we have any updates, Hamali, on the publishing of Q's yet, but we do know it went, so Gravity took responsibility, and we mentioned this earlier, for encoding the best in class, all interpersonal safety recommended pre-screening process for interpersonal safety, and that's called the Q's model. This is built on the evidence of what it takes to help people who are experiencing violence or at risk. C for confidentiality, universal education, empowerment, ever so important, which means you basically give everybody education before you screen them. Like, I don't know if you're going to need this, but here are the resources. That means if they walk out of the room, they can call the resources in the privacy without having to disclose and put themselves at risk. And then if you do have positive findings, it's a very clear intention about what you do next. So Gravity worked with the authors of that Q's model, which was one of our subject matter experts, Futures Without Violence. And just to know that all of the experts across the ecosystem, the elder abuse experts, everyone from the CDC all agreed it was crucial. So that's part of the model. Next slide. And then, Hamali, it's still an authoring, right?
Yeah, it's still an authoring.
Yeah. We'll let you know when we come back in February, we'll be able to say it's there. And so this is the process right now, right? Which is, again, it's only adult screening for now because the IQR measure is only adult populations. And there's a lot of different elements when it comes to screening children. So the way to get to our value sets easiest is to ask questions on perpetrator, because it's the nature of the perpetrator that determines these two different types of abuse. And then intimate partner takes you to intimate partner violence assessment and standards and all of our value sets. Whether there's the presence of the trusted caregiver takes you to the next set. You ask questions on age of the patient to get you to the elder abuse subset. And again, this is something Samantha's brought up in previous meetings. If you're a non-elder and you're getting abused by a trusted caregiver and you fit certain vulnerable population requirements, it's basically treated almost exactly the same way as elder abuse. So that's where that abuse of non-elder vulnerable adult element comes into play. That was, again, just for a reminder, it was discussed and put on hold when we did elder abuse because the elder abuse SMEs wanted time to address it specifically and they wanted to gather other friends in the ecosystem. So when we address that domain, we will be reconvening the brilliant collective of elder abuse and non-elder vulnerable adult. So there are standards. Oh yeah, so that would be addressed separately. Yes, the child abuse, and again, whenever it comes to a child-centered domain, we really don't lead into it unless the American Academy of Pediatrics is involved in leading that work. So that is something that we've already reached out to American Academy of Pediatrics on to make sure that they'd be leading and guiding that element. So we have a safety bubble around that one. All right. Again, so this hasn't changed since we last saw each other. And then next slide. Just noting that we did put abuse of non-elder vulnerable adults and child abuse on our roadmap for future work. All right. That's the content. Again, vote on the utility and security value sets. And then we will publish this little glide path and the areas to be determined because there are domains we have to address in the future. Next slide. And then we go into some build updates and action steps. Next slide. And then I'm going to pass the mic to my lovely value set experts. We have a nickname for them. A very honorable nickname. But Hamali and Sarah Bahal, do you want to talk about the work to go into publishing VSAC value sets and the expectations before the end of the year?
Sure. Thanks, Sarah. So we, as a part of update and maintenance, we do review all the value sets and make sure that no code changes happen to existing value sets. And when we submit terminology codes to the terminology standards, it usually takes 6 months to an year to get those published and be available. So when we build food insecurity, homelessness, housing instability, inadequate housing, there were some codes which were existing, and there were some submitted to Synomed City which were available later in time. But again, it is an iterative process, and we submitted the last set of initial domains, which is released in the latest version of Synomed City, which is now available for us to update those domains. So as a part of standard update process, we will make sure that all the recently released codes from Synomed City and LOINC and ICD are added to existing value sets. So all the value sets which are in black font are the ones which are updates, but there were some domains for which there were no existing codes, such as veteran status diagnosis, which is now released in Synomed City. We will be building that as a new value set, and we have recently completed digital literacy, digital access domains. So those will be new value sets which will be added in VSAC, along with initial small value set of utility insecurity for screening assessments, question answers, diagnosis, and interventions. So again, this utility insecurity domain will be updated, and even digital literacy and access, we are in process of building the codes, building the data elements which are for which there are no Synomed City codes. That build will happen in December and January. Once those codes are released, they will be updated in next cycle. So again, it's an iterative process. Update and maintenance will continue. But just wanted to point out which one will be completely new value sets. Those will be released by December 31st of this year. And if you have any questions, we would be always happy to answer through email. I guess that's a quick update, Sarah, on value set updates.
I was clapping. I want to again thank the work of the terminology team that do the amount of rigor it takes to develop and QA and publish these value sets, and the amount of tracking it takes behind the scenes to make sure that it's all those, every new code is put in the right place and everything's updated both externally and internally. It cannot be underestimated. And it's a lot of handiwork, right? It's a lot of just management, and some organizations have expensive vocabulary platforms. We don't have that. So I just want to thank the labor of the Gravity terminology team. It's amazing, and the reliability of the value sets are because of their work. And then what is I know this is where the rubber hits the road, those VSAC value sets. It's way back in 2017, we met in DC and we're talking about the need for something like the Gravity project. One of our founders, Laura Gottlieb from Siren, she learned what value sets were. And in that meeting, she went, "It's all about the value sets," right? And we were all like, "Yes, it is all about the value sets." And then look at us now. So we're really from 2017 to 2023 and beyond. All right, next slide. Yes, it is tedious and expertly performed. Again, Hamali, Monique, Sarah, thank you. It's brilliant. Next slide. Oh, I don't think we have, I think we can scroll through this. I think I meant to take this out. My apologies. I think if we can go to the closing slides, and again, this was on me. We talked about this last meeting. We don't have to revisit. Okay, this is your homework. Catch up. If we're going to be not meeting until February, you're welcome to review all the extensive information on the Confluence. There is a lot there. You do have to submit your vote by 5 p.m. Pacific time. Jonathan, question?
Yes, but I can wait.
Okay. And then submit your vote by December 1st. And don't forget, if you are submitting, this is on the spreadsheet Sarah made, the Google sheet Sarah makes for voting. But again, if it's a yes with comment or formal objection, your email with the comment needs to be received by end of day the 7th. What's your question?
So is this the last gravity meeting for all the work groups?
No. Yeah, so so this is great. So next slide. I think we
Sorry.
No, it's perfect. It's perfect. You like, it's like you're my like straight person, but I'm okay. So this is the summary of the meetings as they stand right now. So terminology goes quiet because we just have a lot of work to do, and there's no formal consensus finding to do until we reconvene. So we will see you again on Thursday, February 8th, 2024. So we're just taking a December, January build, work, labor, get ready moment. And then we'll see you on February 8th to kickstart our new domains for 2024. Technical work stream continues to meet unless there are holiday related, and because if there's not enough of a quorum from the technical work stream, we don't hold a meeting, but that continues to meet on Wednesdays from 1 to 2.
Sarah, if I may add to that.
Hi, Corey.
Hi, this is the other
Oh,
Corey.
Corey Spears is here. Hi, Corey. Okay, you go.
Yeah, the technical work stream meets every other week, and we will be meeting next week. And part of that, we will be having our Connectathon track kickoff.
Great. Thank you so much.
Okay, well, will there be like an email reminder? Because I actually got lost and barely got here today because I know the schedules got turned around a little bit. So what's the? Actually, I'll just go to the Confluence page. It's okay.
Yeah, the Confluence page is the best source of truth for the meetings because we do keep that schedule up to date. And the great thing is the technical work stream and terminology work stream do have standing links, right? So you should, but hopefully you can find it there. And I love that Corey Spears is here. Corey Spears, thank you for coming. Any other questions on accessing the technical work stream meeting or the cadence of the terminology work stream? Pilot work stream, come to the meeting on the 5th and the webinar on the 5th and the webinar on the 12th. Again, the webinar on the 5th is regarding pilots implementation. The webinar on the 12th is regarding the co-design. So if you were curious about what happened in the co-design initiative, December 12th, I think I'm trying to remember the time, but the link I think was 3 to 4, I think is when it was. But the registration link was in the chat earlier, and you can always email us for more information there. The pilot work stream is not meeting again until January. I think it's January 25th that we will see you all again.
So there's no December 28 gravity pilot meeting.
No,
Okay.
there will be nobody around to have that meeting.
Exactly. Thank you for confirming.
Nobody's around. Yeah.
No.
Yeah. So we just did not even go there. Right. So we'll see you again on January 25th. I think it's January 25th. And again, thanks so much for Civitas for carrying the torch and carrying us into 2024.
Sarah, it has to be said that nobody's around who has control of their lives.
Correct.
There are so many people we know who do not
Correct.
have control of their lives, and they are going to be around that week. So I just want to acknowledge that.
Correct. And I thank you so much for calling that to light. And I also want to note that having worked shift work for a significant period of my life, I had no control over my calendar or the time of day, frankly.
Okay.
So I feel that, I appreciate that, and I feel that as someone who has worked night shift on Christmas Eve. Noted.
Thank you for doing that, and I'm sure all your patients were very grateful.
Yeah. Any other questions before we adjourn? Thank you, Corey. I just want to note again that Corey is part of the Lantana team who is back with us. Very grateful. Corey Spears.
Glad to be back. Thanks.
Yeah, we're so glad to have you. All right. We will see you soon. Don't forget to submit your votes. Write us if you have questions. Thank you so much for a terminology awesome 2023. There are really exciting things happening in 2024. I'm just telling you, press releases will come through. It's going to be an exciting year. We are so grateful. And we made, again, the playbook because of all of you and the diligence of what we do. So and it's fun too. Okay,